The United States forged military legends during the Second World War. George Patton's Third Army eliminated over 1 million foes. Omar Bradley led the largest American force in history without losing a single planned engagement. Yet, for every mastermind, there was a catastrophe. 5 American generals demonstrated that incompetence can wear stars just as easily as brilliance. These 5 commanders made choices that claimed thousands of American lives, lives that superior leadership would have preserved. This is the definitive ranking of the 5 worst American generals of World War II. Number 5 ignored every red flag and paid with blood. Number 1 hid in a bunker 70 miles away while 6,500 of his men were decimated. These leaders didn't just lose skirmishes, they betrayed every soldier who believed that rank equated to competence. At number 5 is Lieutenant General Walter Short, the commander who parked his aircraft in neat rows. When the initial Japanese bombs struck Pearl Harbor, 231 American planes were sitting wingtip to wingtip in perfect lines at the center of 3 airfields. They weren't dispersed for safety or hidden in protective revetments. They were lined up like dominoes, allowing a single strafing run to wipe out dozens. Lieutenant General Walter Short personally made this call, prioritizing the prevention of sabotage over actual air defense, which resulted in the deaths of 2,403 Americans in just 2 hours. Short stood in his headquarters at Fort Shafter, watching the horizon fill with Japanese planes, 183 in the first wave and 170 in the second. They struck every military site on Oahu. Short commanded 43,000 troops and 231 planes meant to protect Hawaii. Despite multiple warnings of a likely Japanese strike, he parked his planes in tight clusters to make guard duty easier. He kept ammunition locked away and failed to activate radar stations or deploy anti-aircraft batteries. When the attack came, his forces were annihilated on the ground. With 188 planes destroyed and 155 damaged, it was the most humiliating defeat in American military history. Born in Illinois in 1880, Short was a 1902 West Point graduate who lacked the imagination to see the real threat. Short was obsessed with the idea of sabotage by Japanese civilians on Oahu. He ordered planes grouped together so guards could watch them better, kept ammo locked to prevent theft, and limited radar to training hours. Every choice he made optimized defense against internal threats while leaving Hawaii wide open to an air raid. Washington sent clear warnings on November 27, 1941, stating hostile action was imminent. Short interpreted this as a sabotage alert, moving to Level 1 defense instead of Level 3 for external attacks. On December 7th, radar operators spotted the Japanese 132 miles out, but the duty officer dismissed it. Short was relieved on December 17th, cited for dereliction of duty, and died in 1949, never cleared of his failures. Number 4 is Major General John P. Lucas, the general who hesitated at Anzio. When 40,000 Allied troops landed on January 22, 1944, the beaches were deserted. There were no German defenders and no resistance. The path to Rome was open just 30 miles inland, with key highways lightly guarded. Intelligence confirmed German chaos. For 48 hours, nothing stopped American forces from cutting off the German 10th Army. Winston Churchill described it as a wildcat landing, meant to strike fast and end the Italian campaign early. However, Major General Lucas deemed it too hazardous. For 7 full days, he didn't move forward a single mile, choosing to fortify the beach instead of seizing the advantage. While Lucas watched his troops land unopposed from the USS Biscayne, he ordered them to dig in. This delay allowed the Germans to rush 8 divisions to Anzio. The Wildcat became a brutal siege lasting 4 months and costing 43,000 Allied casualties. Lucas was relieved on February 22nd for failing to exploit his initial success. Born in West Virginia in 1890, Lucas was a cautious man who excelled at training but faltered in the aggressive environment of Operation Shingle. He believed he needed 90,000 troops instead of 40,000, and his pessimism spread to his staff. Even with a 40-1 numerical advantage in the first 48 hours, he refused to move, fearing he might be cut off if he advanced too quickly. By January 29th, the window of opportunity slammed shut. Germans surrounded the beachhead and launched a massive assault on February 16th with 6 divisions. Allied lines nearly broke, and only naval gunfire saved them. Lucas was replaced by Major General Lucian Truscott, who immediately went on the offensive, but the golden chance was gone. The campaign that should have finished in January dragged on until June. Lucas returned to the U.S. and died in 1949. His failure at Anzio remains a classic case study of how prioritizing caution over aggression can lead to disaster in situations that demand bold, decisive action. His hesitation turned a potential masterstroke into a bloody war of attrition. Number 3 is Lieutenant General Leslie McNair, the general killed by his own Air Force. The highest-ranking American officer to die in combat during the war didn't fall to the enemy. He died when 1,500 American heavy bombers dropped their loads directly onto American positions. McNair, who had trained 90 divisions for war, was killed instantly alongside 111 other soldiers in the worst friendly fire incident in U.S. history. But McNair's death was more than a tragedy. It was symbolic. His training doctrines had been costing American lives for 2 years. He was in a forward trench near Saint-Lô, France during Operation Cobra, wanting to see how his methods held up in battle when the bombs fell short. Born in Minnesota in 1883, McNair was top of his West Point class. As commander of Army Ground Forces, his philosophy focused on speed. He believed infantry should attack without waiting for support and favored light tanks over heavy ones, thinking American industry couldn't produce heavy armor fast enough. These theories failed miserably in combat. German Panthers and Tigers had thicker armor and bigger guns. American light tanks couldn't pierce them, but German tanks destroyed Shermans with ease. At Kasserine Pass and Normandy, the kill ratios favored the Germans 3-1. McNair's light armor doctrine was a death sentence for American tankers, and his infantry tactics were even more flawed. McNair believed aggressive infantry charges could break any line, often ignoring the need for combined arms coordination. This led to American casualty rates 40% higher than British units, who used heavy artillery preparation. The friendly fire incident that killed him was a direct result of his own demands. He had requested short bomb runs with planes flying low and dropping payloads dangerously close to the front lines. Air Force planners warned him, but McNair insisted. He died because his theories prioritized raw aggression over careful coordination. His death was kept secret for 6 weeks, and while his methods were eventually replaced by combined arms doctrine, 90 divisions had already paid the price for his flawed vision. Number 2 is Major General Edwin Forrest Harding, the general who lost Buna. Douglas MacArthur rarely relieved generals on a whim, but on November 30, 1942, he flew to Buna, New Guinea, watched the attack for 10 minutes, and told Harding, "You are relieved." No hearing, no second chances. Harding's 32nd Infantry Division had been attacking for 17 days. Despite outnumbering the Japanese 7,000 to 3,000, they had gained only 200 yards while losing nearly 2,000 men to combat. MacArthur told Harding's replacement to take Buna or not come back alive. Harding had led an unprepared division into a nightmare they weren't equipped to handle, failing to use his 6 weeks of prep time effectively. The 32nd Division arrived in New Guinea with almost no jungle training. Soldiers didn't know how to navigate the terrain or maintain weapons in the humidity. Within 2 weeks, malaria cases outpaced combat wounds because Harding hadn't prioritized medical prep. The equipment was a disaster. Heavy steel helmets, wool uniforms that caused heat stroke, and leather boots that rotted in days. Tactically, Harding used World War I frontal assaults, sending waves of infantry against Japanese bunkers made of coconut logs. Machine gun fire couldn't penetrate them, and grenades just bounced off. Harding didn't adapt, he simply repeated the same failed attacks until MacArthur intervened and sent him home. Lieutenant General Robert Eichelberger took over and immediately implemented new tactics: flamethrowers, close air support, and combined arms coordination. Buna fell within 5 weeks. The 32nd Division suffered nearly 10,000 casualties at Buna, over 6,000 from disease alone. One division was nearly destroyed in a single battle. Harding was responsible for this lack of readiness that caused thousands of unnecessary deaths. He retired in 1946 as a brigadier general and died in 1970. While the 32nd recovered and fought on through the Philippines, the veterans never forgot Buna, and they never stopped blaming Harding for the friends they lost to his incompetence. Finally, at number 1 is Major General Lloyd Fredendall, the general who built a bunker while his men died. While 40,000 Americans fought Rommel's Afrika Korps in Tunisia, Fredendall sat 70 miles behind the lines in an underground fortress. He ordered an entire engineer battalion to spend 3 weeks blasting tunnels into a ravine wall just to make his private quarters bomb-proof. Meanwhile, he issued orders in a bizarre slang code that no one could decipher and refused to visit the front. The result was the disaster at Kasserine Pass: 6,500 American casualties and 4,000 captured. Fredendall's name became synonymous with incompetence as he sat in his hole reading reports of his corps being annihilated. Fredendall bypassed the chain of command, insulted his allies, and ignored his commanders, creating total chaos. When Rommel attacked on February 14, 1943, American positions collapsed. Fredendall sent reinforcements 1 unit at a time, allowing the Germans to destroy them individually. Eisenhower was appalled to find Fredendall's HQ so far from the fight and relieved him on March 6. George Patton took over, restoring discipline in 10 days. Fredendall returned to the U.S. and somehow was promoted, but he never saw combat again. These 5 generals failed when it mattered most, but their blunders taught the Army vital lessons. If this ranking changed your view of World War II, hit like and subscribe for more honest history. Thank you for watching.